Cold Ice Remastered is a rebuild of a mod that was popular back in the day. Now when I say back in the day, I don't mean 10 years ago, I'm talking 1999. In summary, Cold Ice Remastered is a deathmatch experience that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's absolute carnage at its finest. Fast-paced, loud, and absolutely crazy, and I love every second of it. Very recently, on August 18th, the beta 2 of this mod was released and I want to bring it to everyone's attention. Doug Archery, or Surreal as he's better known in the community and the creator of this mod, reached out to me a month ago, and he shared an article that he wrote a while ago. I was fascinated by the rich history this mod carries and how it's basically the most OG mod, spanning a development of 23 years. In the mod, there's a huge arsenal to play with. A slide and grapple mechanic, punches and kicks like goddamn I love this. When you get in the thick of it, it really is adrenaline inducing. The maps shipped with the current build are all tailor-made for this mod and some are reworks of the original HLDM maps. The community has played a big part in the making of this mod. It did back then in 1999, and 23 years later, they're still helping Surreal out with this mod. With scripts, models, maps, and testing, which I also did. Thanks for adding me as a bot in the mod, Surreal. I appreciate that. But before I get further into the mod itself, let's talk about the history because, trust me, this one is something you'll like to learn about. The year is 1998. Surreal, a young lad, had just gotten a new PC. On it, he used to play Quake 2, Sin, and Unreal Tournament. But of course, out of them all, his favorite was only one: Half-Life. He spent a lot of time playing Half-Life Deathmatch with other community members of the time. This was when Half-Life was fresh off the oven and making headlines and big sales around the world. It was the game to play at the time. A year later in 1999, Surreal got his hands on the newly released Half-Life SDK. Now, Surreal was familiar with modding, having done some custom configuration changes for Red Alert and Rainbow Six, but it was Half-Life where his proper endeavor in the realm of modding began. After getting his hands on Visual Studio Professional 6, that his dad bought him, he started working on his first proper project. It would be called Cold Ice. It started off as a weapon skins and mechanic change mod. Make the game play differently, it was that simple. Surreal writes, Cold Ice was unique, immature, violent, provocative, and rather odd. But I didn't care. Now that's a mentality I can get behind. The name Cold Ice came from the instance where Surreal opened up Paint Shop Pro, added in Gordon's textures, and inverted them. When he put them back in the game, the textures looked rather cold, and that's how he got the name and the theme for the mod. As time passed, he learned the ins and outs of tools like Visual Studio 6, Paint Shop Pro 5, 3D Studio Max, and of course, Hammer. And with that, he kept working on various things, the codes, the models, the maps, even the marketing for the mod on his website. He was fixated on making this mod. Whenever stuck, he would go to websites like Wavelength, ask his questions, and the community was more than happy to assist him. He would take models and sounds from different places, add them into the mod, and crafted an experience that would add value to the game. One thing I was quite impressed by was the credits on the mod. If you look at the credits list, it lists out each and every single person or group whose work is used in Cold Ice. Now that's a remarkable way to archive 23 years worth of modding. Over time, around 30 people had contributed to the mod, wanting it to be a success and finish up on something that the whole community would enjoy. While a lot of great map designers from Radium stepped forward to help, Surreal worked on the mechanics and gameplay aspects of the mod. He would build custom libraries for it, make the 2D art, and even help out other famous mods of the time, such as Trinity Command and Wasteland Half-Life. Later on in the summer of 1999, Surreal was even invited to test out a little mod some people were making. This mod was called Counter-Strike. As much famous as it was as Cold Ice at the time, it later became so well known that Valve acquired the team, and well, we know the rest of the story at this point. Surreal would continue working on Cold Ice, using the tools of the time on a dial-up connection. He would release a build, find bugs and patch them, even have beta testers go through the mod and patch the mod even further. After a lot of releases, Cold Ice finally made it to the mod of the week on Kevin Bowen's Planet Half-Life. Planet Half-Life was this huge community of Half-Life fans that ran on the now defunct GameSpy network. It got to the point where Surreal was even invited to Valve's 1999 Mod Expo in San Francisco, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to attend nor show off his mod there. But thanks to the showcase on Planet Half-Life, he would get tons of emails about Cold Ice. A majority of them would be other community members sharing positive feedback and comments about the mod, while some of them were simply trolls. At the time, version 1.75 was the most played one, but the 2.x beta version that came after it wasn't that positively received. Surreal worked on other mods then, like Half-Life Pro. But after noticing that people perceived Cold Ice to be dead, he and his fellow team members decided to release an SDK of their own, the Cold Ice SDK. But right after that, Valve released the 1.1.0.0 patch for Half-Life 1, which broke every single mod that was available to play up till spring of 2000. To counter the issue, Surreal started work on a rewrite that he called Cold Ice Resurrection. It was, unfortunately, a failed endeavor. It was a massive project. Hundreds and hundreds of hours were spent on developing it. It was extremely high quality compared to the original 1.75 version, and it became a balloon that was sure to pop sooner or later. And that it did. After keeping it behind the curtain for too long, not able to get feedback, the motivation seemed to die out. The files and the project was left unreleased. It withered away into the digital abyss. The project was officially shelved in 2002. This massive update to Cold Ice would be unseen till Surreal showcased it in his article. After trying to bring back that creativity and motivation he had so much of, he failed again with another project called Half-Life Advanced. And once Half-Life 2 was released in 2004, that was it. Surreal quit the scene and walked away. In 2021, Surreal started working on Cold Ice Remastered, a rebuild of the original mod that stays faithful to its origin and legacy, while adding on top more enhancements and changes. I started off my journey in Bounce 2, which was this huge canyon area with a large battlefield and tunnels that lead into the sub-areas. And from this map to the last one, I got nothing but great Gold Source vibe in its purest form. If I were to personally tell you what this mod is, I would say it's Half-Life Deathmatch, but on steroids and a little bit of crack. Now if you didn't get it from the previous segment of the video, this mod is supposed to be like this, nonsensical and non-serious. That's why you have the ridiculously overpowered weapons, slides, kicks and punches. If I were to talk about the weapons used in this mod, it would warrant a video on its own, so instead I will mention my favorite ones. In a lobby of 13 players, it still proves to be a fast-paced and fun experience even in a big map like Bounce 2. One of the things I like doing in this map and some other open maps was using the grapple hook. It's so easy to use and changes up the dynamics of the gameplay so much, and for the better, I might add. If you're ever cornered or are low on health, you can make a quick getaway by zipping out of there. And that feeling of snapping onto a surface and getting pulled towards it does not get old. The next map is called Canyon. I absolutely love the dreamy sunset-like ambient lighting in this map. Plus the verticality in the central part proves to be a great place to use the grapple hook. One thing you gotta keep in mind is that you can't stand still, which is like the first rule of Half-Life Deathmatch and all its derivatives. You stop running, you get blasted to smithereens. You might have noticed by now that there's a weapon in here that kills everyone. Yes, that is in fact a tactical nuke, but portable. Aim it anywhere, shoot it, and watch everything and everyone vaporize. I love it. Then there's the Leroy Jenkins jacket. What this does is, I'll let you see for yourself. Yep, you blow yourself up. Jesus Christ. Then we move on to the map called Catacombs. This feels heavily inspired by Half-Life because of its appearance, at least the inside areas. Lot of industrial looking textures and rusty metal and all that good stuff. Honestly, this map was good, but really didn't manage to wow me like the rest. Maybe it was the intense similarity to Half-Life, I don't know. Oh, and there's another weapon I really liked using, the grenade launcher. It was really fun trying to figure out the angle of the grenade and how it'll go, and that satisfaction you get when you nail your target is amazing. Now this is my favorite map out of the whole bunch. There's just something so nostalgic and nice about the way this looks. The map is called Cold Ice. The overtly bright appearance with a clear blue skybox, it screams late 90s and I'm all for it. Also here I was using one of my other favorite weapons, the dual USAS 12 auto shotguns. If you got the right aim, these can be devastating at mid to close range. The map also features this broken bridge area, which is a nice change of pace from the other area. Same with the dual shotguns. The dual rocket launchers are even more devastating, but also have a very high chance of blowing yourself up as well, so aim carefully. Depot is one of the most comforting map in the mod. I absolutely love the late night aesthetics and the warm glows of the yellow lights, but the problem is, some of it is really dark. And with too much going on, it even started to lag out. Might be because it's too small and there's a lot of players and a lot of action going on. But with all of this going on, it's still a hoot and a holler to play in this map. Fences is a simple little map that might be good for practicing. It doesn't have any vertical aspect to it, so it's good for general practicing, or even trying out the new mechanics like the sliding and the melee attacks. Did you know that you can right click while equipped with the fists and do a Shoryuken? It's absolutely based as hell and I love it. Speaking of the visuals, there's not much to talk about apart from the fences, as the name implies. But I do like the skybox in this though. The grey sky and the moon and the mountains is just a good vibe. Focus is another Half-Life Deathmatch inspired map that I like. It has multiple sections, so the grapple comes in handy while moving to places like Spider-Man. There's not much to say about this one, apart from the fact that it really reminds me of Half-Life Deathmatch, and that's not a bad thing. You might have noticed by this point that there are these pickups. These are called runes, and you can pick one at a time. I don't know what each and every one of them does, but they do give you some extra moving speed, or extra armor, or extra damage and so on. At least that's what I've noticed. I'm not sure what they exactly do. Frostfire is similar to Bounce 2 in a way that it also takes place inside a big area surrounded by cliffs. There's another area inside that's reminiscent of the Stockyard from HLTM. It's another great map where the grapple function comes in handy to navigate around. Moving on, I really like the overall gothic aesthetic of the map called Furrow. Oddly enough, it reminded me of Quake, and that's awesome. Grey floors and brick walls and a dark skybox. It all blends together to form this nice, dark and gritty appearance. And as for the layout itself, it's not that big. It has a bunch of connecting paths and it's easy to navigate through. Again, small map means big carnage. Snowcross is the Cold Ice reimagining of the Crossyard map, a Half-Life Deathmatch classic. Here it's been retextured and has been mildly expanded upon as well by the inclusion of the rooftops. Also in this match I went wild with the rocket launcher. It was a grand old time. Another weapon I like to use was the M16. It's just a normal weapon, but it's a good all-rounder that's not too crazy like the rest and is fun to use. At this point, I'd like to share that if you don't like the ice textures on top of the guns, you can turn them off with a command. What I'd suggest you do is read the ModDB page carefully and see what options you have. That's the aspect I really liked about this mod, the use of CVARs, or the commands as I like to call them. You've got a lot of options to work with, and it's nice that the mod lets you customize it as much as you want. If you want a feature to be turned off or on, it's just one single command. These commands can be found on the ModDB page or the README file. Be sure to read those. Also, this mod also has Iron sights. While I like the idea, it's not absolutely necessary to use. While Surreal and I talked about it before, I would suggest to modify the animations for the weapons while in iron sights. Because of how the weapon moves all over the place when you move or shoot, it's not really that effective to use them. Snowyard is another Cold Ice reimagining of Stockyard. It's been textured well to suit the mod's aesthetic, and I like playing in this variation. Stockyard 2 acts like a spiritual successor to Stockyard, and again, it's good, but I don't have much to say about it. What I like though is the expanded size of the rooms and halls, a lot of movement area to play in. Training was the first map Surreal made for this mod back in 1999. It's very basic looking, no doubt, but it's the anchor that connects this modern iteration of the mod back to its roots. This map is the starting point of a 23-year-old legacy. It features a pool and a huge interior area to fight in. Good stuff, even for a first map from 1999, a year after Half-Life came out. Training 2 is a sequel to the previous map. It is much bigger and much more detailed than its predecessor. I've said it before in my earlier videos, but I really like games and mods that take place in snowy areas. So going through all of these maps was a great feeling. So Training 2 is the last map on this mod, for now. And now we reach the ending. Cold Ice Remastered is a love letter to mods of yesteryears. A time of simplicity and, most importantly, fun. Not saying today isn't well or bad, we have amazing mods in the work, but time to time, we need a reminder of how things were back then. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked what you saw, do check out the link in the description and play the mod. Support the team behind it, because this mod is cool. Thank you for watching.